Welcome to The Perch. I am your co-host, Angelina.
And I'm Kenna. Guess what came out last week?
Guess what it is?
Season 3 of Bridgerton.
Part 1.
Part 1. Shonda Rhimes, When I Find You. I love you, but why'd you do this to us? Now we have to wait a whole month?
A whole month.
June, we'll be out of school by then.
Yeah. At least then we could binge it.
Exactly, but I did that anyway.
I wish I did that. I wanted to binge it. But it's okay. Maybe it's for the best that I separated it a bit.
Yeah, don't be like me.
But yeah, the part 1 came out. Did you like it, Kenna?
I did like it. Again, I was a little upset they split into 2 parts, mostly just for like pacing reasons. But
Yeah.
I mean, I liked it. Their chemistry's really great. That's always a plus. But what about you?
I agree that I didn't really like that it's separated in 2 parts. Because it just... The first part, I liked the first episode and the 4th episode. The middle ones were kind of boring. I feel like it wasn't fast enough. Like, there could have been more.
Yeah.
Well, obviously there is more. Since there's a second part.
There could be more right off the bat.
Yeah.
It seems like a really odd decision to split it into 2 separate parts when seasons for TV shows nowadays are already so short.
Yeah.
Because, like, 8, that's, like, a normal number for seasons. Because I remember at least when I was younger, it was like, oh, yeah, like 20 episodes or at least.
Yes. That's what I was used to also.
Yeah.
Like, when you're growing up, like, I know I watch a lot of Modern Family. But there's, like, 20 episodes or something per season.
Yeah.
But now... Like, even for sitcoms, like Abbott Elementary, it's only, like, 10?
Mm-hmm.
And it's, like, getting, like, the seasons, like, the number of episodes per season seem to be getting shorter and shorter. And I am not a fan of breaking it up to be even shorter than it already is.
I'm just glad it's not too long of a wait, because a month, in retrospect, isn't that long.
Yeah.
But again, I do feel like it messes up the pacing, because you've got, like, okay... Here's this couple we've known since, these 2 individual people we've known since season 1. And then, okay, now they're together. Now we have all these, like, things that's, like, she's with him and he's being a rake, They're doing all these things and then, like, they finally come together.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I love the last line.
Yeah.
The last line, okay, I do like that. I will admit, I do like that hanger of, like...
That cliffhanger.
Right? I was like, are you going to marry me or not? I was like, oh my goodness. The romance, the drama.
Yeah.
I do like that, though. I will admit. I'll give Shonda that.
I do like that, too. I am excited for the next season to see not only, like, what she says, since I haven't read the books. I know you've read the books, but I want to see what she says, but also, like, what happens if Colin finds out about her being Lady Whistledown.
Yes.
Because I know there's that one part where he's like, I'll never forgive her, or I'm gonna find her, or something.
I'm gonna ruin her life. That's what he
says.
says. And, like, we're all just, even Eloise, who knows, is like, oh.
I wonder what he's gonna, like, when he finds out. Eventually he'll find out that Eloise knew all along.
Right.
It's like, what's that gonna, like, what tension is that gonna bring between them now?
Exactly.
Especially since they're, like, really pretty decently close.
Yeah, like Eloise, Colin, and Benedict are pretty close. I mean, they're all close siblings, but, like, we usually see them around each other very often, so it's gonna be interesting to see how that affects their dynamic going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because... betrayal, like, what is it? Sibling betrayal is not something we don't... What is it? Sibling betrayal is not something we lack in Bridgerton. We can see in season 2 the whole Sharma family.
Oh, no, yeah. I know a lot of people were upset about that change, too, because that didn't happen in the books.
What happened in the books?
In the books, she's in love with Edwina is like, courting a totally different man.
Mm.
And I think the reason that they did change it was because it was another thing of, like, them getting caught in a compromising position. Do you know the scene where, like, he's, like, trying to suck the poison from the bee sting out of her bosom, for lack of better words?
Yeah.
That happens, but they get caught by, like, Violet, Kate's mom,
and
Miss Featherington.
In the books?
In the books. That's what happens in the books.
Oh, my.
And so I don't think they, at least from conversations I've seen, I don't think they wanted to repeat kind of like, oh, found in a compromising position and then have to get married really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I don't think they...
that already kind of happened.
Exactly, in the
one.
previous season.
Yeah.
So I get why they did it, but just, like, way to screw over Edwina, who was, like, supporting her sister, like, through every beat in the books. I didn't like that change, personally.
Yeah. It's, like you said, you didn't like that change, but I think it made it more interesting.
It definitely did. I will admit that. But I was just, I felt so bad for Edwina, because, like, she was embarrassing her the whole time.
Yeah, literally, they're gonna get married.
About to get married.
Then she's like, shit, this guy is gonna leave. This guy doesn't like me, he likes my sister.
The ultimate betrayal. Older sister, no less.
And then she went and said, stepsister, you're not my sister, you're my stepsister.
Oh, that was cold. That was cold.
But yeah, it's really interesting seeing those sister stories and how, like, Edwina was about to get married and all this. And I know, like, that's the main goal for, like, all the women and whatever, to get married and have a family. But it's interesting seeing how different, like, marriage and kids and, like, what is it, even, like, sex between, like couples. Like, I feel like the men in the stories know a lot about that, whereas the women are very illiterate to that.
Yeah.
And that's just, because, like, the society, like, their moms, the other women, they don't really talk about how to conceive a baby. They're like, oh, you have to lay with them. Like, even, like, that's what we're talking about. In this part 1, season 3, we can see the Featherington sisters. They didn't know what's going on.
At least not the younger one. We should probably have looked at their names. Let's see what their names are.
Let's see what their names are. I just know they were the funniest.
They were. Let's see. Okay, Philippa. Philippa was the one who... Yeah, because I know Philippa, when they were having the whole, like, this, like, baby discussion to kind of making sure that the house stays within their family, it was like, oh, you know, if one of the daughters produces a male heir, then, like, the house will belong to that sister.
Yeah.
And so, like, it was, like, this race to conceive a baby. Yeah. And so, you know, like, Miss Featherington pulls him aside, like, Lady Featherington pulls him aside and is like, okay, you know, like, it doesn't matter if you don't like it. A woman's pleasure is more subtle than a man's. When he, quote, inserts himself. I apologize for the crudeness. Yeah. And then Philip is like, inserts himself where?
Yeah. She's like, huh?
Like, she didn't know. And so, because I know prior to Daphne's marriage to the Duke in season 1, Violet, while she was a bit, like...
vague.
She was vague, and I think she was embarrassed, too.
Yeah.
You know? She had kind of explained how it worked, but then, like, if Philippa didn't know, if Philippa Featherington didn't know, does that mean that their mom didn't explain it or didn't explain it well?
I feel like in this time period and, like, the society, I feel like a lot of the moms are very vague, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
And use a lot of metaphors. It's like, okay, you can say all these things, but that still doesn't mean that, like, these like, younger women that are getting married know what to do. We can see that in season 1. Like, Daphne doesn't know, like, how exactly that works. Mm-hmm. And I just feel bad because you could see, like, the different stigmas that women have about sex in the society. Because it's like, hush, hush, no one knows, you're not supposed to talk about it. Whereas guys, they're always... Like, we could see Colin talking to his buddies and being like, oh, these French women over here. And then where is he at? He's at a brothel.
Yeah, no, repeatedly.
Yeah.
I was just like, it just, all of a sudden, the scene just pops out. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, like, the guys can go about and...
do their rakish activities.
Yeah, do a lot of things. Whereas the women, it's like, oh, you were caught with him in the
even just
garden,
being alone.
Alone?
Even if they're not,
bad.
like kissing or anything. Yeah. And even if Daphne and Simon weren't caught kissing in the maze, it still would have been taboo. Her reputation still would have been ruined.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of just like, it's like brownie points for the guy. It's just like, oh yeah, like, you did this, you know, you deflowered this girl. Like, it's weird. It's
weird.
Really weird.
And it's like, the guys know about their own, like, bodily, like, autonomy.
Yeah, and
like,
their sexuality.
Yeah, and, like, how, like, to get someone pregnant and how not to get someone pregnant. Whereas, like, the girls are like, how does that even happen?
Exactly. And it's also weird considering that pressure is so often put on the women to conceive. It's just like, oh, like, she's, you know, it's the problems with her, especially with, I think the funniest part of it is, like, blaming the woman for not, you know, making, you know, not creating a male child when it comes from the sperm. Exactly. I think that's what cracks me up the most, is looking back on historical media.
Like, women, why aren't you making the babies? Why aren't you making them a man? And they're like, look, it's not. That's out of my control.
This is a 2-person job.
This is a 2-person tango, and it seems like all the pressure's being on me.
Pull your weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that, like, they shouldn't remove it from the show, but it's definitely, like, a discussion that is interesting to have.
And what's also interesting about it is that the 2 Featherington sisters, they had no idea, like, how to do it, or not really.
Prudence did.
Prudence did.
Like, she just said she didn't enjoy it.
Yeah. Whereas Penelope, since she reads a lot, I think she, like, we can see that even, like, during the carriage scene, the infamous carriage scene. But there's, like, that moment of consent that she gives to Colin.
Yeah.
That, like, head nod,
mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because I feel like consent is a very important thing to talk about.
Yeah.
And Penelope knew about, like, these things, and she's probably read a bunch of different stories and all this. She's
writing a gossip column talking about what people's escapades.
Exactly. Whereas her other sisters didn't know because they didn't read or do anything, and their mom didn't really teach them anything. So it's interesting seeing the different dynamics between them.
Yeah, because there's that whole thing. And while, like, this is the bare minimum, I do want to state, like, asking for consent when doing sexual activities with a partner is the bare minimum.
Yeah.
It's still refreshing to see, considering, like, the conversations that they have. And, like, oh, you know, like, this is your husband. He's, like, allowed to do this, allowed to do that. And, like, there's really no conversation of, like, what the wife wants.
Yeah.
In the situation. So it's kind of just, like, separating the Bridgerton men from, you know, everyone else in the town and society. Yeah. So I think that is, well, again, it is the bare minimum, you know. It's not treated like the bare minimum, even nowadays sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I do think that it's, you know, kudos to them. kudos to them for kind of, like, making those scenes very, like visible, because, like, you can tell that, like you were saying, that was a moment where she was giving consent, where she was nodding, being like, yeah, no, we can keep doing this.
Yeah, like, we could go further, you know? Whereas Colin's, like, on his knees being like, please.
Forgive me.
Please let me go further. You know? But yeah, that is an interesting point of discussion that the show brings up. And not only that, but, like, Penelope and, how do you pronounce her name? Nicola Coughlan? Is that how you pronounce it?
Nicola Coughlan, yes.
Yes, okay, just double checking. How we could see her character being romanticized, being desirable, and because she is, what is it, like, a larger
She's
woman.
A plus-size woman,
yeah. And that's perfectly okay, and I think it's important for, like, popular shows to have diverse body types be seen as desirable and, like, wanted, you know?
Yeah. I think it's definitely a change from the books, because the way it goes in the books is, you know, I can't remember, let me think now. But there's a significant time jump, and Penelope is about 27 at that point. And while in the show, she does get the kind of, like, glow up of, like, changing her wardrobe. If I remember correctly, in the books, part of her quote-unquote glow up is her also losing weight as well. So making that change to where Nicola doesn't have to make that change, I think that was also a very important and impactful thing, because obviously, like, she's a gorgeous woman. Like, she's strikingly beautiful, like all the women in the cast of Bridgerton. But I think it seems like such, like, a minor thing when we think about it, like, now. But, like, God, I can't imagine if, like, this show had been made in, like, the 2000s. I don't think she would have. First of all, she wouldn't have. She would have been. Maybe she wouldn't have. Would have been cast.
Yeah.
Or like, they would have made a lot more like fat jokes.
Yeah.
You know, like we were talking about in one of our previous episodes about representation in kids shows. That kind of like discrimination verbally was a lot more prominent in shows targeted towards teenagers and adults.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine, but I'm glad because I love looking at her.
She is stunning.
I know.
And I'm glad that she was able to like had that glow up of like changing her clothes and changing her hair and makeup style. I really liked her makeup this season.
I did.
It was very like sleek.
Yeah, it was kind of like smoky because with a lot of the makeup, specifically Daphne's in the first season, it was kind of just like what people call like the clean girl.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, okay, like enhancing her natural features, adding some more blush, making her look very glowy, which I do like, but I do think that given Penelope's transformation, that the makeup went really well with it.
Yeah, it made her look like compared to like the first season, all in yellow, super tight curls.
Yeah.
And seeing this transition is very nice and refreshing. Yes. But also we can see, I know we were talking about this earlier, the clothes and the costuming seeming a little lackluster this season compared to the last couple of seasons.
Yeah. So I know one thing that someone had brought up was that the lack of really intricate embroidery, because we do see that with Kate and Awena's outfits a lot in season 2. And so it's just kind of interesting because if we're putting it in the perspective of the show itself, she doesn't really have to spare any expense because she's got all this money from being, you know, Miss Whistledown. So, you know, all the money that she shows under her floorboards. So it's a little interesting. She still looked great.
Yeah.
You know, but like I would have liked to see more like embellishments. Yeah. And a complaint that some people had, I don't really care, but like oh my gosh, she had like jewels in her eyelids as part of her makeup. Yeah, and it might have been in the final episode, where just like on her inner corners of her lids, but I don't really care. Bridgerton has never been known for historical accuracy, you know. So I mean, who cares?
I say let her have a little jewel on her
let her be.
Yeah, you know my favorite like costume, not a costume, but like hair accessory was the Queen's wig with like the light
swans in it?
Yeah, the swans, and it was like lighting up.
Yeah, and they were moving in there.
Yes, that I need that to be like displayed. I need to see that up close.
That's literal art.
That is.
Kudos to, as always, kudos to their costume, and their costuming, their hair, their makeup. You guys kill it every single time.
Every single time. But yeah, that one was so cool. I know that's probably not historically accurate. I don't think they had LED lights to like make her wig glow, but I don't care at that point. It's pretty.
Right. I know another thing with like talking about diversity with, you know, body types, another thing that Bridgerton has been known for is its diversity with ethnicity and race. That was another thing, because that's kind of just Shonda Rhimes' thing. Yeah. Which over here to kind of just like, yeah, no, I'm going to put someone here, I'm going to put someone here, even though there would have been kind of more of a stigma around it.
Yeah.
And like if we're talking about in real life, but it's been really interesting because, you know, first season we've got a black man and a white woman. Second season we've got a white man and an Indian woman. And this season we do have 2 white characters, but some of our side characters are people of color. Yeah. The Mondricks, who come into was it dukedom through their son, but he gains a position. Yeah. You know. And so it's really interesting to see kind of just people of color, specifically from my experience, black people kind of being like, yeah, no, they're here. And it was kind of explained in the Queen Charlotte.
Yeah, because she like came from like a far.
Yeah, she came from Germany.
Yeah. She's like, okay, I'm here now. And that's why in Queen Charlotte's like that series, we can see like how they brought a lot of other
black people, because they just kind of made things like, you get a title, you get a title, you get a title.
It's like, no, we're gonna normalize this.
Yeah, but then at the same time, like, the Queen Mother was still kind of very colorist. Yeah. At the same time, so it was interesting having those conversations. But I know some people think a lot into it being like, this is weird, like this wouldn't happen. This is not historically accurate. Yeah. This is not real life.
It's fantasy. It's fiction.
Yeah.
Like it's semi-historical period piece, but like, still
Yeah.
have a little fun with it.
It's always fun seeing people of color on the screen, because even when we present our own media to be made, it's oftentimes it doesn't get funding.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really great to see, to be frank, in a sense, colorblind casting is what some people refer to it as, but I think it's not. I wouldn't call it colorblind casting, because it's still very aware of the fact that, people of color are so underrepresented in everything else historically.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, in a sense, it doesn't make up for it, but, like, it's still great to see people of color in these really fun, loving settings.
Yeah, and I feel like it also helps, like, from, like, more interest from, like, viewers.
Exactly.
If it was just all white, I feel like not a lot of people would want to watch it, whereas since it has more diverse actors and people are like, oh, this show is diverse and we want to be able to see more people represented that look like us on screen.
Exactly. Not only does it expand, the connection with the audience, it expands your audience in general, too.
Yes.
So I know I can't, like, she played Karen in the Mean Girls musical.
It starts with an A.
It's like a shot.
Not Anya.
Avantika.
That's
Yes, Avantika. She said that, like, seeing Kate on the screen in season 2 was, like, one of the first times she had seen a dark-skinned Indian woman. One of the first time she had seen, someone who looked like her represented on the screen. Mm-hmm. I think that's really important, because for some people, that seeing that representation doesn't come until later in life.
Yeah.
And so it's cool seeing, like, teenagers and young adults, being able to watch the show and be like, oh my gosh, someone that looks like me.
Yeah.
These very, like, period pieces are so much fun.
They are.
So it's really fun to kind of just take people of color, quite frankly, places that wouldn't be realistically, and insert them into, these fun, settings.
Yeah, I know. I love myself a good period piece.
Mm-hmm.
I love Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, I eat it up every single time.
Every single time, it's like I want to cry. It's so beautiful.
Right,
like
the soundtrack.
Is it 2005?
Yeah, 2005 version.
That's the one.
That's the one.
That's the one. But I wonder how. Let's say if they remade it now,
mm-hmm.
I feel like they would be open to more, like, diverse, like, actors from, like, different, like, racial backgrounds.
Yeah, because it's not important to.
It really isn't.
Yeah, it's not important. That's why there's able to be that flexibility.
Mm-hmm. Because
with things like Bridgerton, quite frankly, a lot of Jane Austen adaptations, I'd love to see a colorblind casting for Emma.
Mm-hmm.
It's not relevant. There's not that relevancy. I know people would joke. It's, touching on Disney movies really quick, being like, oh, if we can make, Rapunzel Indian, why can't we make Tiana white? Because Tiana's race is important to the story.
Yeah.
It's part of her hardships. It's part of, her hero's journey.
Whereas, like, Rapunzel, her race doesn't really matter.
Exactly. The only relevant
thing
is her blonde hair, and anybody can have blonde hair.
Yeah, her magical hair.
Her magical hair.
Yeah. It really doesn't matter if it's, like, not pertaining, like, if the story doesn't talk about the race being part of their story.
Or their culture.
Yeah, their culture. I feel like as long as the actor can act well.
Right? That's what gets me.
Yeah.
Because I'll pick someone, and I'll be like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Because I know when, really quick, touching on the Rapunzel debate, they'd, like, pick these people, and it's like, some people I'd seen them in, like Disney shows, Disney movies. I'm just like, there's some questionable acting in those Disney movies. Yeah. So, I don't know. To each their own.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I like seeing the diversity.
Yeah. It's funny seeing the actors, like, in, like, different things. Simon's actor?
Yeah.
He's just not there anymore. The character's non-existent.
She's non-existent.
I feel bad because sometimes I want to see Daphne and, like, what's going on with her life now?
Yeah, because that was one thing in the books, is, like, they're still a really tight-knit family.
Yeah.
They still see each other really often. They'll spend the summers together when the season's not in. And so, because I know one thing he had said, it was, he didn't want to be associated with only the Duke. So I think, like, a typecasting thing.
Yeah.
But, like, at the same time, I mean, you would only be popping in every now and again. You wouldn't, your main plot line's over.
Yeah, it'd be more of a cameo.
Exactly. That's exactly what it would have been. So it kind of takes away from what she can do as well, what Daphne can do as well, because, you know, he's not there. And let's be real, there's talks of, like, fans are like, maybe you should recast him. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't think so. I feel like they've kind of moved on from him.
They're gonna put a lot more focus on Anthony and Kate as kind of parental figures.
I think so.
You know, as like the matriarch and the patriarch, and you know, the Viscountess and the Viscount. So
they really helped us this first part.
Right? No.
Yeah, I was like, wow, we need more of them. But then they left.
And they left. Let's go to another honeymoon. No, come back, please.
Come back. We need you.
But yeah, I know another thing was, I remember I was sitting down and watched the first season, and when the girls were making their debut, and the queen was super uninterested in everyone, there was one girl that came up to the side, and she was signing with her mom.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I love that.
I know.
I was like, I was watching that. I was like, ooh.
Like, I went back, I rewinded, I was like, did she just sign?
Yeah. I think that's incredible.
Yeah, it's such a little thing, but, like, it's the fact that, like, we noticed.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's interesting seeing a different type of diversity, too, in this show. Like, different abilities and, like, you know, because there is that deaf woman there during the presentation of, like, all the women. And then there's also one of the guys that...
Yeah, one of the suitors, he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah. And we can even see that, like, different mental, like, abilities or whatever.
Yeah, because some people, after having watched the third season, thought that Francesca was autistic coded because of her sole interest in the pianoforte as kind of like a special interest. And I mean, even if it's not like canon, it's still great that people can see themselves in a character, even if they don't explicitly have that same, you know, disability.
Yeah, and even like King George.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, seeing like his whole story arc in Queen Charlotte's series.
Yeah, and her like not giving up on him, her like being there to support him. Yeah, you know, and advocate for him when he can't advocate for himself. I think that's another really great thing. Yeah. Really quick, touching back on the suitor in the wheelchair. It was Penelope had been having a conversation with him. That's how we got introduced to him, and it was. I feel like the amazing thing about it was that she didn't like treat him any differently. Yeah, it's like it was like walking up to anybody, you know, being like, oh, like let's have this conversation. Yeah, you know, and like even she was super excited when he was like, yeah, like I'll come call for you tomorrow. You know, like nothing mentioned about like, oh, like he's in a wheelchair, like this and this and this. Yeah. It was just like, yeah, no, he's just a man, which is true, just so happens to be in a wheelchair. You know, so I think that was great. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, I agree.
I know another interesting thing was that people had brought up after the season had come out was that the author of the original books, Julia Quinn, said she wouldn't be opposed to seeing a LGBTQ plus lead. Yeah. Which is really exciting. Because she, from what I understand, she doesn't have much, like, creative rights in terms of, like, writing. She's brought in as an advisor for, you know, when they're writing the script. But, I mean, she said in an interview with Cosmopolitan Spain that you can find in the Pink News that she's like, it'd be great if there was, like, a protagonist, if there was a queer protagonist, you know, because one thing that she had reiterated in interviews was that, you know, it's about, you know, these stories are about love, you know, and if it means, like, adding more representation, then she, you know, she's okay with that.
I think that's a great idea, honestly, because, like, I just wonder who, like, the lead story would be if there was to be, like, an LGBTQ plus story. I know some people are like, maybe Eloise.
Yeah, that was a
maybe
conversation.
Benedict, or, like, I don't know.
It could go either way. I wouldn't be opposed to, like, anybody. Yeah. You know, it could turn out great, you know, any way they choose to go. Because they're really good at... That's something that Shonda Rhimes is always really good at in her shows, is, like, getting two actors with just amazing chemistry. Yeah. It's kind of terrifying, you know, how good she is at that. Yeah. I mean, cough, cough, Scandal. Carrie and Tony. Oh my gosh, and you find out both those people have their own separate spouses, and you're like, you think that they were married Right, you think her leads are married with how like much they click. It's like, oh my gosh, cast me in a Shonda Rhimes story. Jeez.
You need to find your soulmate. That is crazy.
But I love match.
I would love it if there wasn't, like, I don't know, a gay couple.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, like I was saying, like Eloise and what is it, Cressida?
Cressida, yeah.
That's just speculation, but I know there was a part when Cressida was like waiting for like people to call on her, and then Eloise came, and everyone's like, "Oh, Eloise."
Yeah, it's not proper for friends to come in. This is calling hour.
And then Cressida's dad's like, "You can't be talking to that girl anymore."
Exactly. I was just like, and the Bridgertons are like such a influential family too. It's like that's like a crazy thing to say.
That is.
I was like, better watch it.
Yeah.
Cressida's dad.
I feel like a lot of people in the tone. Is that how you say it?
I don't know. I say tone. Tone.
Yeah. But I know a lot of people, I think they assume that Eloise is sort of like the black sheep of the family.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because I wouldn't say that she is, especially with their portrayal in the show. But, like, they're all their own people. I don't think any of them are necessarily black sheep. You know? And Violet is like a killer mom. Like, she's such a good mom.
That's true. She's always wants her family to find love.
Right. She's just like, another one, thank you, with all these love matches. I'm just like, you get it, girl. Get all your kids love matches.
Yeah.
But, like, maybe that's kind of how it appeared in, like, earlier seasons.
Maybe it's just my perception of it, because
it could just be.
Yeah, it seems like.
But then I see why you think that way, because it makes sense.
Eloise is very strong-willed.
Yeah.
But also, since she also like has all this privilege being an influential family, she kind of gets the better of her.
Yeah.
I know we could see that in season 2 when she's like talking to the guy in the printing shop.
Yeah, when the guy in the printing shop, when she starts going to those, I think it's feminist meetings.
And like, I don't know. I want to see more of her progression, because right now, I hope she gets a little bit more thoughtful. Like, takes a second before she starts doing things.
Yeah. And well, you know, I've never had a problem with her being, like, strong-willed and opinionated. Just like, hey, refine your ideas, you know, like, find your inner biases, because I don't necessarily think that she's a black sheep, I do think that sometimes she can be a little full of herself.
I agree.
Because I know there were conversations being like, oh, you know, Cressida, because we got to see more of Cressida and more of her personality, and in a sense why she is the way she is.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, her parents being, you know, kind of jerks.
Yeah.
Doesn't excuse the way she's treated people, especially Penelope.
Yeah.
It's still interesting to see, like, oh, this is where that influence comes from. You know, her mom's a gossip. Her dad is threatening to marry her to some old man.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's really interesting because Eloise grew up in this loving environment. You know, with, even though her dad died, you know, younger than, you know, obviously they would have liked, because they want to live with their dad.
Yeah.
You know, she still had, you know, Anthony, who stepped up as a father figure, and then of course her mom.
Yeah. You
know, who are always very supportive, and so it's just interesting to see how, you know, Eloise kind of comes out as being kind of full of herself, you know, and being a bit of a gossip, honestly, even if she doesn't realize it, in, you know, comparison to Cressida, you know, where she, like, when Eloise tells her, like, hey, like, don't mention this, she doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't, and so I think it's interesting seeing the Cressida, like, self-growth.
Yeah. Now, I know at first I'm like, I don't like this Cressida character, but now I'm like, you know what? Maybe she deserves a bit better.
Yeah, it could go either way, you know, especially when they brought up oh yeah, my dad's gonna marry me off to this, like, old man. Oh, poor girl. Because, like, that's such a fear.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, we could see that with Lady Danbury.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Seeing Queen Charlotte's story and her story in that.
Yeah.
I feel bad. I'm glad that she doesn't have to deal with that guy no more.
Right? She just keels over. I was like, oh my gosh. It was a little funny, I'll admit.
I think it was supposed to be funny.
Yeah, it was supposed to be funny, but it's just like, oh my gosh. It's like so, like, out of the blue.
Yeah.
But her brother in Violet Bridgerton.
Yes, that's a whole nother thing. He came in this season.
And they were like talking and stuff like that. And Lady Danbury does not approve.
No, but I feel bad for Violet. She hasn't had nothing.
Right?
She needs to get back on her horse.
Get back on her horse. Oh God. Yeah, Violet, you get back on that horse.
Yeah, she's been off of that horse for
however old Hyacinth is.
Yeah.
But overall I like the show. I enjoy it. Second season is still my favorite.
Yeah.
Kate and Anthony, my OTP, my one true pair.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see where part 2 leads us.
Me too. I'm excited to see more Penelope. I like her character.
Yeah, she's cute.
Yeah. She's just beautiful. Like we were saying.
I know.
Nicola Coughlan is a beautiful person. And it's just crazy, like, seeing how, like, stunning she is. And everyone's like, oh my goodness, she's 37.
Right? Like, what do you expect people to look like women to look like after they turn 30?
Yeah.
Like, this 30's not that old.
It really isn't.
Yeah, because I know, like, the actress who plays Eloise is also in her, mid to late 30s. You're like, oh my goodness, what do you expect?
What do you mean? Like, that's another thing that is interesting is the diversity in casting with, like, age.
Yeah.
I know it's hard for me to conceptualize, like, a 30-year-old woman, like, in media.
Yeah, I'm playing an 18-year-old, too.
Yeah, but I feel like all the times when women turn 30, then they're like, okay, you're cast as a mom now.
Right?
Like, what does that mean? That we're still women?
Exactly, yeah. Because I know one thing that had got people up in arms was, I think it's Emmy Rossman. She played Fiona in Shameless. But
I know who you're talking about.
she was cast as Tom Holland's mom in some, like, movie or TV show. I think it was that Apple TV original that he had that was released last year.
Yeah. I don't remember.
But people were like, oh my gosh, like, why are they casting her as, like, his mom when they're not, that's, like, not that big of an age difference, And, like, I get it, because, like, okay, yeah, it's acting, but, like, at the same time, like, you can't cast older women to play older roles.
Yeah. Or it's, like, the whole, like, I feel like I've seen a meme of, like, Spider-Man and then, like, Aunt May, and, like, seeing, like, the progression from, like, Tobey Maguire's Aunt May, who's, like, a lot older.
Yeah, they keep getting younger and younger.
Aunt May keeps getting younger and younger.
Yeah, because it's just, like, because, like, she's a straight-up elderly woman in Tobey Maguire's.
Spider-Man,
and then in Andrew Garfield, she's kind of, like, okay, like, middle-aged, like, 40s. And, like, she could, like, be in her late 20s, early 30s in the Tom Holland version.
Yes.
I was like, whoa, what a leap.
It really is a leap. I hope there's more age representation. That's just for media. All TV shows, film, and such.
Yeah, because there's only a 10-year age gap between Tom Holland and Emmy Rossman.
Yeah.
There's only two guys. She is 37 and he is 27.
They could be siblings.
They could be siblings. So it's just, it's interesting, but I'm glad that Nicola is in Bridgerton and here to stay.
Yes, I'm glad. I just like her acting. I watched Dairy Girls with her,
Oh, yes,
too.
Dairy Girl's so funny.
She is so funny in that.
They're all funny in that.
They're all funny, actually.
But she's funny. That show's so good.
I love that show. There's so many good shows out there.
Right? And she's in 2 of them.
Yeah. Only those 2.
We're your number 1 fans, Nicola.
Yes.
Come to Citrus College.
Be on this podcast.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, but I mean, if it does, hit us up.
Yeah, we're manifesting it into the future.
Manifesting.
In the future.
But I'm so excited for part 2, even if it is a month away.
I am excited too. Hopefully we'll get more closure and hopefully it'll like rev up. I want it to be faster.
Yeah, like rev up immediately.
Yeah.
Like head start.
Faster and more. Just more context, more story.
Exactly.
This first part,
more drama.
Was a bit slow.
It was.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what they do because there's still a lot of story to be told.
Yes, there is. There's so many stories. Well, thank you, dearest listener, for listening.
I'm Kenna.
And I'm Angelina.
And we hope to see you next time.
Yes, come back.
Please.
Please and thank you. This is our part 1 to Bridgerton. Our part 2 will come out when that comes out.
Exactly. We're waiting.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.